Hey, good to see ya. Thank you for dropping in with me tonight. We got a special download for this week coming in for the collective for our reality tunnel this week. The Quest reality tunnel for those who are game and want to do a little role play with their life, co-create with spirit a bit, and just see what kind of insights come forward, okay? So it's an interesting one for this week. We've been moving through the angelic energy, and that needed to come in for a couple weeks. That energy was really front and center, but you know, those angels, they can be real taskmasters. So it's not really surprising to me that this is the reality tunnel for this week. The theme is, it's all BS, as in, it's all belief systems. So this is sort of the window in the grid we're setting up this week, the view we're going to get for those who are game, for those who wish to participate, and just have a little fun with this, have a little interesting experiment with this to really greet everything that comes up on our path as BS, right? This puts a whole new slant on things if you really think about it. And it's actually something that will go pretty deep and have us questioning why things are the way they are, what role we play in it. All right, so I think it's pretty spicy, actually. We're going to dive into it, though. We're going to do a little look through the ends of some arcane BS, and we're also going to work with the Tarot of the Dragons. I felt like I just wanted to go a little bit out there with this. I think there's a lot of potential for creativity to come forward with this reality tunnel if we're really looking at everything that we're encountering on our path as a belief system, whether it's viewed as a positive experience or a negative experience. Either way, there's so much there that offers an incredible amount of insight. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. All right, and I think it's something that can actually go pretty deep. I'm looking forward to seeing the insights that come forward with this one. So let's just open up with a baseline with arcane BS and see how this might be expressed in the experience that the collective comes across on their road. Okay, we're going to bring in all signs for this. So this is for Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Ophiuchus, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. So what's BS? It's all BS. So what kind of BS can we expect to come up on our path this week for those of us who are going to dive into this quest and look at the world through this particular reality tunnel? What BS might come up on our path, Spirit? The Pantless Beekeeper. Interesting. So we might really start to view our experiences different, where we do feel like we're dealing with a little bit of sting, you know, for some sweetness we wanted to get. And we feel a little bit embarrassed about the way we ended up with some egg on our face back there for our choices. Does it really have to be that way? I mean, maybe the beehive is buzzing. Maybe people do have, you know, opinions about what you did. Maybe they do have judgments. But I mean, it comes down to it. Was it worth it? Was the sweetness worth the reward? And if the sweetness wasn't worth the reward, maybe it's just your belief that this is the sweetness you were looking for, and you wouldn't realize that actually this was not the place to find it until you had this experience where maybe it was a little embarrassing, or, you know, oh, that wasn't me, you know, at my best, okay? Does it need to be an embarrassment? Do other people's judgments about your choices need to be something you have to take on in that way? Where does embarrassment come from? What is embarrassment really about? It's about validating somebody else's view of you more than you value your own. That's an interesting one to explore. Boom, we got the sex witch octopus here. Okay, so there could be a lot that's coming up for people around intimacy, around sexuality, maybe even in some character they're dealing with that feels like something they can't release. they can't let go of. Maybe you feel like this thing has a hold on you. Does it have a hold on you, or do you have a hold on it? Ooh. I mean, really, you have to think about it. Does it have a hold on you, or do you have a hold on it? Because if it's all BS, if it's all just a belief system, then any belief could apply. It's all depending on how you wish to look at it. You know, you may think that something has a hold on you when actually if you ask the other, they would feel like you had a hold on it, and vice versa. Isn't that interesting? So there's something to explore here. All right, let's get another baseline. Another baseline. Yes, yes, yes. This could be a very insightful week. A cactus on a motorcycle with udders. Interesting. Got a lot of interesting pieces here. There's a lot coming through about energetics, and I say that because we have the eel here. And I'm also getting this piece here about the way we like to stake claims on things. If we give away our power in that sense, you know, we see there's a leaky tank here, okay? In what way are we giving, you know, our power to that thing outside of ourselves that we feel like we do need to stake a claim on? Can you stake a claim on anything outside of yourself, really? Can you? That's an interesting perspective too. You're going to start to understand certain truths that come forward, ways that you've kind of like, you know, been sort of like cheesing it, you know what I mean? Like you've just sort of been like telling yourself like, well, yeah, you know, this is just the way it is. And you haven't been looking at the deeper motivation of things. You've been putting on the face, you know, putting on the image, but in what ways are you not really realizing that there's not anything that's like a good look in putting the blame on something outside of yourself, you know? It's actually not very empowering at all. It doesn't come off as badass either to be in this position where you do feel like you can kind of run the show, or where you do get to kind of cast people in the role of villain, you know, in your life, and the way that there's nothing, you know, there's nothing tough about that. There's nothing rebellious about that. It's actually more of a greater like rebellion, you know, to be that one who really does break the mold, who's in charge of their life, to go, no, you know, absolutely everything that's occurring in my life is because, you know, I believe it to be this way. I could change it in an instant. I could believe it to be something else, and it very much would be. You know, it really is true. It really is, but people struggle a lot with it. They struggle a lot with it because when we step into that kind of self-ownership and we don't blame others outside of ourselves, okay? We've talked about this before. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that happen to you in your life that are traumatic, or where somebody was very unfair towards you, okay? Or something really devastating occurred. Certainly there are injustices, but even within the scope of such an experience, we always get to choose how we are going to encounter that hand of fate. We always have a choice about whether we allow that to completely destroy us and we live our lives from a place of being a victim, or whether we rise up out of those experiences and we find a sense of empowerment. And certainly that often does require at times that we reach out for help, or that we form community, supportive community. That can be challenging, especially if you have dealt with experiences like that, you know, where your trust has been totally eroded. But at the end of the day, it does come back to really trusting yourself, and trusting your own perceptions, and trusting your own intuitions, and also trusting in your ability to rise. Trusting in your ability to have the strength to overcome the things that you have viewed as oppressors in your life. And that's part of the programming too, you know? And the challenges may be great. And you may be up against a lot that you feel you don't have the ability to overcome for one reason or another. And all of those reasons are, again, BS. They're just belief systems. And how did they get there? Who put those beliefs in your head? How have you taken this on and adopted it as the gospel when it doesn't really serve? Or it keeps producing the same kind of experiences or the same kind of results that have you traveling in circles. And you feel like, wait a minute, I think I've already passed that cactus before. Isn't that the same cactus I saw like 100 miles back there? You know? I also think of cheese, and I think of like, the cheese is the end goal, who gets the cheese, who gets the reward. And this is also another way that we kind of hold ourselves back with competitive mindset. The empowerment comes in collaborative mindset. That's where the strength is, but it's hard to overcome that viewpoint because absolutely everything in our media, in the algorithm, no matter how you look at it, is geared towards us looking at it as an independent mindset rather than collectively. It serves the agenda better if we look at things through those angles. Absolutely. We are more disempowered when we are divided. And that's how this kind of like competitive, it's mine, I claim it, I stake a claim on it, the rewards are all mine, and not thinking of how they can be shared, creates this scenario where we don't get very far, that our tank goes empty. And why? Because it's all based on like that self-preservation mindset. I think of the cactus energy. Cactuses, they can really endure some droughts. Is that how you want to live your life though? Do you want to live your life enduring some droughts? Do you want to live your life, needing consistent like towers coming, that electrifying moment that wakes you up? Or do you want to choose to wake up in this moment and become more actively engaged in your life, and understanding that in order to do that, you have to recognize that it's all about relationship. It is. Everything interrelates with each other in life. You can't be an island. It doesn't work like that. It can't be all about you. Everything that happens affects the greater whole. And there's something really looking at this equation and how sometimes, we think that we get ahead, but we're not really getting ahead if we're not considering the bigger picture, if we're not considering, what that means collectively, even more so in the age of Aquarius. That's what it's about. We're shifting into this new consciousness. And those who aren't shifting into that place of consciousness and are thinking from the more independent mindset will find down the road that their self-preservation starts to wear pretty thin and they get left back, because they run out of gas, they run out of steam. More people are coming over to the side of, thinking more from a concept of how can we pull through this? How can we pull through this? Because if you're not recognizing that you're not going to be able to ultimately pull through what's coming down the pike alone, like it's time to really wake up, Stop being so self-protective as well. Start being willing to connect with others. Yeah, maybe there are a lot of people who don't move correct in this life, but there are people who really do want to create some kind of change in the world, sustainable change in the world, and who do want to help others, but we never get to encounter that if our life has us programmed from the mindset, from the BS that, no, everybody's against me and nobody really cares and it's all just for show, and that is another way that the algorithm is programmed. Do you understand? Like if fake kind of images are what is favored and is pushed this kind of filtered existence, then naturally you're going to start to get programmed, especially through constant conditioning, through social media, through all the shorts you watch, all the entertainment you take in. You start to program yourself to believe that everybody is fake, but that's not the case. And I love that more and more people are, you know, taking off the filters. And I love that more and more people are just allowing themselves to express themselves authentically, genuinely, you know, that they're not in this position anymore of, you know, trying to make it look so pretty or wrapping it up in a package that is maybe palatable, but is not able to really be received because people can see through that, you know, people see through the BS too. There's a lot that'll come forward with this one. All right, we're going to dive in with the dragons here, because dragons carry that serpentine energy, and they also are creatures of both land and the heavens, so they can give us a lot of perspective. They're all about transformation, but they also can get a different view that can give us some guidance. And we got on the bottom of the deck here, 6 of Wands. I love this. Yes. How can we all win? How can another's win not have to be a failure for you? Ooh, that's an interesting one coming in. Why do you view somebody else's win as a failure for you? Interesting. Okay, this could be a collective thought that's out there. Why is somebody else's rise your fall? Why can't it be viewed from another angle? It's all BS, right? It's all just a belief. What if somebody's rise is also your come up? Did you ever think about that? If it's all connected energy, then every time somebody rises, everybody steps into their empowerment a little bit more. The more we all get a little bit free. Every time somebody steps up to the plate, transforms something that was holding them back, like everybody benefits from that. It might not be so easy at first when you have to encounter the way that, you know, that illuminates something for you. But see, that's that projection piece. It's so much easier for people to kind of like put on something outside of themselves than to really acknowledge, no, it's how I view the situation. It's what I believe about the situation. It's because of the filter that I'm seeing it through, you know, that is coloring my experience. And it's reflecting back to me something about my beliefs. Something about my beliefs that in some way shows me that I'm still separate. I'm still buying into this idea of division rather than unity. The empowerment comes through the unity consciousness, understanding that it is all one energy. Because as soon as we accept that, as soon as we come to that place of acknowledgement, then we have to also simultaneously accept that we have a lot more creative power at our disposal than we give ourselves credit for. And as soon as you recognize that, you can no longer stay in the victim mindset. So if you believe you're a victim, in what way is that working for you? Because it must, if you'd want to believe that. How does it get you out of taking responsibility in a certain way for your life? Or shifting something in your life? I'm not saying this from a standpoint of any shame in any sort of way. I've been in a place in my life where I could have easily called myself a victim as well, many times. Many times. I haven't had an easy road to hoe. I don't think that anybody necessarily has had an easy road to hoe. We all have our experiences and times when we felt oppressed or overpowered, you know, but what do you do with that? What do you do with that? And if you feel like you're defenseless against it and it's overwhelming, then that's the right time to like reach out for help, right? It's not easy, no. But again, every time somebody stops being a victim or stops blaming other people or stops feeling the need to engage in drama and perpetuate it, the more people become empowered. The more people don't need the drama. The more people can take accountability, because it's a continual refinement of the overall collective energy. We all hold our peace in that. It's kind of pointless to focus on what others do, because truly to help others, you know, got to help yourself first. Four of Cups. Yeah, that's what nobody wants to hear, though. They don't want to hear that. That has to begin with you first filling your cup, right? Nobody wants to look at that. They want the healing, or they want the sense of celebration. They want the rewards that come from that point of arrival, but they don't really recognize that to make that happen, they first have to fill their own cup. You can't give anything to others or have your energy output into the universe be something that comes back to you in such a way that it's fulfilling, that it's rewarding, that it's a celebration, that life's a joy, that you get that healing you need. If you're coming from a place of, no, it's because of this outside entity here, this outside person, this outside problem, that I'm not being fulfilled. BS. It's BS. It is. It's total BS. I'm not saying it might not be a disappointment if something's not working out the way that you wanted it to work out, but why does that have to be such a sticking point? It's like you can choose to believe that has that kind of power over you to make everything just so rotten in your life, or you can go, okay, all right, well, you could also adopt the belief system that, well, this frees me up to put my energy in a more productive direction. I'm glad I know what that is now. I don't have to waste any more time there. That means there must be something better for me. I thought that would be really good for me, but wow, I might be saving, that space in my life for something even better. Some people may say that's delusional, but isn't it more delusional to just expect more of the same rotten stuff you've already been through? That's delusional. Why would you want to keep anticipating that, focusing on that, creating that? You got to begin with yourself by giving better to yourself. If you're dealing with situations where you feel like you're not being treated fairly, or you're not being treated with kindness, or you're not being treated with understanding or compassion, how about you start being kind to yourself? How about you start having compassion for yourself, showing up for yourself, tending to your needs. This is so key. So key, all right? It does begin from within first. It begins from within. And then you start to see different experiences being reflected to you outside of yourself. So this can be really good, because as you move through this week, if you have this as your reality tunnel, that it's all BS. When you feel really activated, really angry, you're like, well, I'm feeling this way because of my belief system. So what is that belief system I'm having right now that's getting activated? And then in what way am I giving my power away by putting it on this person or this situation outside of myself, instead of looking at how I can shift my belief system so it better supports me? It's a really interesting inquiry. Yeah, Five of Wands. The ways that we, are in conflict with ourselves, and the ways that we engage in the drama, and how engaging in the drama is actually just a really great way of bypassing personal accountability. Because as long as you're tapped into the drama, you're able to continue this thing where you're sort of pinning things on outside of yourself, which is not a place of being in your personal empowerment. You're still giving somebody else, the authority to be the creator in your life. You're letting them be a co-creator in your experience. Are you liking that? Are you liking what's being created? It's amazing what happens if you're ever in a situation where there's like a lot of drama, there's a lot of conflict, or maybe people come up with this in like the dating arena at times. Somebody tries to put you in competition with other people because they want the ego gratification. It's amazing what happens when you just say, I'm not down with that. That's not what I want. And maybe you really did want to connect with a certain person, or maybe you did really want this particular opportunity, but is it still the opportunity you want if it comes with all this kind of garbage attached to it? And are you maybe forgetting that this is coming through in such a way because it's trying to show you that this really isn't what you want? You don't really want that. You know, that's not what you're creating. So as soon as you recognize that and you go, okay, I'm just going to pull my energy out of that. Let them do that. You know, you can compete for that. You can be at odds about that. You can be in conflict. I'm not in conflict. I'm very clear. I don't want that kind of stuff in my life. And you pull your energy back from a dramatic situation. It's amazing how soon you feel at peace. How soon you feel happy. How soon you're able to direct your energy instead into more productive channels. And then with your focus on different things, you know, things that actually do fulfill you, you know, just because it's not that, it doesn't matter. You find a new flow in your life and a new sense of direction, right? And then what aligns with that feeling starts to align with you. So yeah, it is about, you know, looking at those places that come up this week too, where you do feel dinged, you feel like engaging, you feel like being part of, you know, whatever conflict, whatever drama. What is that thing? What is the belief system that's driving you at that point? That's making you act like I need to engage with this BS? Because that's interesting too. It's a lot easier to continue to project and say the problem has to do with so-and-so. It's because they're doing this. No, it's because in some way you're still holding space for it. You're interacting with it. You're engaged with it. And when I'm saying you're, I'm talking about us, we, all of us, me too. I've been there too, everybody. We all do this, you know, so when you really take a look at it, the places where you're at odds, why are you at odds with it? You're at odds with it because in some way you're trying to control an experience. And as soon as we kind of like let go of that BS, that we have that control when everything is truly chaos all the time. And we should be grateful for that because chaos is the creative force in the universe. If it weren't for chaos, we wouldn't be here. But you can be like the fly that encounters that chaos, or you can be like the spider that knows how to work with it in a creative way, to weave it into a web of connectivity, of creativity. You know, you get to decide how you wish to participate in that. It's something really interesting to look at anytime you feel that dinging within you, like the need to argue with somebody, or the need to get into some battle, or the need to prove your point, or the need to compete, or feel like you're, you know, your win is another's loss, or your loss is another's win, or vice versa, whatever. Like, okay, that's a very limited belief. And why are you choosing that? What is it giving you a pass on? There's something to be looked at here, all right? Let's check it out. Let's dive in. Give us some guidance about this. Any more guidance you want to bring in around this, Spirit? I think this is an interesting one. I'm going to enjoy moving through this one. I like to challenge myself in this way. I do, you know. I mean, I spend most of my spiritual focus on my path is, I'd say 99.9% getting over my own BS and getting myself out of my own way. And that's where I choose to put my focus, because that's what really opens up my road, I notice. It's really wild the ways that we give away our power to these things outside of ourselves, that we've been programmed to grant that authority, and there's no basis in truth to it at all. You really are at the wheel, you know, and yes, everybody else too, they're at the wheel as well. All these egos are, you know, charting their own experience in this reality, but you get to choose how you direct your attention, your energy, your focus, and what beliefs you uphold, and that will shape your life. It will. It will. You know, if you're a misanthrope and you go through life and you hate everybody that you interact with, well, then you're just going to find more reasons to feel like that. You know, you're going to find more reasons to feel like that. And where does that come from? Wanting to feel like everybody else is beneath you anyway. That's an interesting point of inquiry as well. Yes, the Seven of Cups, it's all illusion. It's all illusions. It's all castles in the sky. Do you want to build castles that can easily be struck by lightning and be brought down in a tower? Or do you want to see castles that actually form connectivity? Castles in the sky that can get rooted down on earth through sharing a common vision with a collective. I mean, we do got Phoenix energy here, the transformation. We have this elk energy here too. Elk is about having a healthy sense of pride and understanding that you do bring something of value to the table. Maybe you don't. Maybe that's the BS you will encounter this week. The ways that you make yourself smaller, less noticeable, or hold yourself back because you feel in some way that you're an imposter in a particular arena, and understanding that no, where is that coming from? Why did you adopt that belief? Where did that belief come from? Can you believe something different? I mean, if it makes you feel good, if something inspires you inside, there's reason to have a healthy sense of pride around that, you know, and maybe you are supposed to share it. Maybe there's something that helps you kind of get over yourself as well. You know, and the ways that you get in your own way when you take the risk to share it as well. We do have tiger energy here, white tiger, and tiger is all about moving forward, and moving forward in such a way that has endurance. Moving forward in such a way that has endurance, okay? But endurance is an interesting word, something that stirs you inwardly. Okay, I mean, there's no accidents, even when my speech comes through kind of garbled like that. It's interesting what it can illuminate for me. Endurance, it's what stirs you inside that actually can give you endurance to stay on track, to build a better vision for your future. Yes, and we do have, you know, this feeling of being able to find the flow with the koi fish here. And there's these jewels of wisdom that come forward that are like the seed of the new beginning. And all of these things will kind of be highlighted for you as you move through this week, because that's the thing that'll sort of shoot you in the foot right off the bat. If you have like a negative view of something, if you have, you know, sort of a set ceiling for a particular direction that you're heading in, you can automatically ground yourself before you ever have an opportunity to take off. And if you're not feeling really engaged, if it doesn't stir that self-belief that, yeah, I can see this through, because you don't feel enough inner engagement with whatever you're moving toward in your life, then you don't ever have a chance to reach this place of having that new beginning and the growth that comes from that and the transformation of the energy. So there's a lot that you're going to see through as you sort through your BS this week and the experiences that you encounter that will help you realize the way that, you know, you kind of put a glamour on yourself. And the glamour is your beliefs. And maybe you can experiment too with a different belief, you know, by setting a different reality tunnel with each day that kind of builds on the previous information that came through for you the day before, you know. You know, if somebody is really like, if you're like having a conflict with somebody, you're like, they're such a freaking jerk, man. I can't stand this person. What if instead you like flipped it and you're like, well, what if I just believe that they're actually like my greatest ally, because they're helping me get over so much of my own stuff and they're helping me tap into a new kind of strength, and I've discovered so much about what I'm capable of just because this person didn't believe in me. Then how would that shift the connection? And how would it shift your experience? It's interesting. And I really like this energy of the Seven of Cups, because there's a side of the Seven of Cups that's often not looked at, and that's the glamour side. So you can cast a glamour over your reality too, according to what you choose to believe for that day. You know, if you really set that as your intention, you know, this is what I'm going to believe for today, that this person that I viewed as my nemesis is actually now they're my greatest ally. Whoa, what happens in the rest of my life just by addressing this one connection here? Now, what if you span that out and get like a broader scope of vision around that? What does it illuminate to you? This is going to be pretty interesting. Okay, one more round, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a cut of the deck, and we'll close this up. A lot to think about with this particular theme. A lot to consider. Yeah. One more time. One more time. All right. Ooh, they came out crossed. It's really wild. This is how they landed. They landed standing up and they landed crossed. So what are we learning about here? Oh, wow. One came upright and one was reversed. Look at this. This is the Three of Swords. Okay. So yes, this is some pain related quite possibly to a tower. And maybe this pain, what's been delaying the healing of this pain is not recognizing the way we keep ourselves in that space. We keep ourselves in that space of nurturing the grief, you know. I say that because on the other side here, we have the Ten of Swords in reverse. So this is not being willing to actually like let go of the pain, nursing the pain and holding on the pain and the disappointment in connection with it almost gives us a sense of control. Maybe you hold on to the pain because then you can continue to blame somebody. Maybe it's easier to blame somebody for a painful experience than to just accept the reality of the situation. And yes, maybe they didn't move correctly. You know, maybe they didn't treat you with all fairness or whatever. But how much good does it do to continue to focus on that? And in what way is that giving you an excuse to stay connected to the pain? And have you thought about this? If you're holding on to the pain in such a way, is that maybe your last lifeline to be connected to this person? Rather than healing the connection with that person. So there can finally be peace and release around whatever was painful back there. Even if you don't move forward with this person in the way you thought you would. That's a very interesting perspective as well. The way that holding on to your grief over what somebody did to you can actually be a way that you stay energetically corded into that person and try to control the situation, try to still have a connection with that person rather than being released from it. So it feels like there's a lot that's coming up this week in relation to BS associated with our connections with other people, or who we've labeled villains in our lives, or the bad guy, or the way we've given away our power to others outside of ourselves and the choices that they've made, rather than really taking our own responsibility for our own perspective of the situation and not having to view it as a disempowerment, but an empowerment in seeing the truth. And in seeing the truth, then align that with our own truth in choosing how we want to move forward in our lives. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, cut of the deck to wrap it up. See what we'll learn from this. Ooh, Queen of Swords. Look at that. Transforming the karmic cycles of the South Node into the birth of a new beginning through transformation. Not willing to stay tight in the bud anymore, taking the risk to bloom. Beautiful energy. Okay, Libra energy with the Queen of Swords, that South Node energy, collective theme coming up, maybe coming up very strongly for Libras in particular, but also for any air sign energy. Certainly Aquarius in the mix there. This is what the work is about, okay? It's about using that sword of truth, Fragorok, to actually take the action. That's when we marry it with the fire element, Spear of Lu. and we actually take the risk to crack open. We're not broken, we're broken open. And from that, the transformation comes. We find the sweetness of the release, okay? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And with the lilies here, it's also about paying honor to what caused that cracking open, because it was part of that process. There's this really wild thing that happens when, and I've experienced it, so this is how I feel like I can speak on it. There's this really wild thing that happens when you've been through something traumatic in your life and you've done the work, okay? You went down into the trenches with it. You felt all your pain. You looked at the ways that you held on to the pain. You really let this like eat you alive by going into the belly of the beast with it and not resisting it in any way, just directly encountering the shadows that you took on from others' projections, the shadows that you perpetuated yourself, ways that you allowed yourself to be disempowered or didn't respect your truth, didn't look at your truth. And when you really do that work and you integrate all the lessons of the elementals and you work through all those different layers and you shed all of the false narrative that was holding you back and keeping you bound to an old story, an old identity, and you take that risk to just come out of your shell and be seen as you are and not have any fear about whatever happened back there or whatever anybody has to say about it. And when you can actually look back on the experience and even those that hurt you, and you can say, oh my God, I'm so grateful for you. Because if you wouldn't have done that, and if I wouldn't have had to go through that healing process, I wouldn't have discovered my strength. I wouldn't have discovered my empowerment. I wouldn't have gained the courage to bring my authentic self forward. I would have forever stayed tight in the bud. I would have forever continued to live my life so small and so self-contained out of the fear that had always held me back until you gave me a reason to frickin' rise. There's something really powerful that happens with this kind of radical truth-telling and what I consider true forgiveness. Because it's not about the I'm sorries. It's about not allowing your life's expression to be held back anymore by what happened back there. That's when you've truly forgiven. When you can move forward and you can hold your head high and you can feel happy and fulfilled and not held back by what so-and-so did and not feeling the need to blame them or flog them or continue to whip a dead horse over what happened back there. You just move on. It's stronger, more empowered, more aware, wiser, also compassionate. Because you begin to understand as you grow and as you heal and as you do your own alchemy work that the people who acted out of those places, they were acting out of their own BS, you know, and you actually help them by getting free of it. You do. In fact, it's their only hope. So there's this like transformation that's happening here. But it only happens when we really acknowledge this truth and let go of the need to suffer or let go of the need to continue to blame somebody for what happened, you know? And the way you know you've arrived at that point is when you're not looking back there anymore. And when you can truly be grateful for it because you see the transformation that resulted within you. And that this too was a teacher on your path. It's deep. It's deep. It's deep. And that is the healing that's on offer with the Four of Cups that we turn our nose up at. We do. We turn our nose up at it. We want the celebration, the healing. We want it. And Spirit's like, well, this is the way. You just let go. And you trust that what fell away was meant to fall away. Because there's something more for you. And this is where that something more comes in. But you won't see it until you take the cup and pour into you first. So it's a really interesting message coming through there. I'm excited to see how this turns out. I am. I'm excited to see how this turns out. I want to bring the angels in just for one round here. One round, okay? I'm going to bring the angels in because, you know, they were with us for the past 2 weeks. And I just want to see what the perspective is that comes through them. Oh my gosh, look at this. Bottom of the deck, 5 of Swords. Look, the blame. The pointing the finger. Yes, desire to know, the acquisition of wisdom. Yeah, you're going to find out. You're going to find out that, you know, you might have been blaming it on people, you know, that you considered, you know, the bad guys. Well, they're the ones who've been holding me back. If they would just get out of my way, I'd be able to move forward. But no, it's because you believe that. It's that BS that you've prevented yourself from charging forward. You know, for every finger you point, there's, you know, many turning back at you. So there's that piece there. There's something that you're really going to discover where you've had a desire to know. You're going to know. You're going to know the way forward. And it has a lot to do with your BS. Okay? Your own BS. What BS you need to get out of the way and how you can, you know, look at life in a different way. Have some different beliefs about it that can move you forward in a way that actually starts to really click for you. All right. Well, that doesn't take much at all. What do we got there? Yeah, temperance. This is what needs to be brought in balance. Sagittarius energy. This is what's out of balance right now, okay? There's a need to alchemize this. That's what brings about reconciliation. That's what regains the favor of those one has offended, okay? This is how you bring things back together again, you know? It's by balancing yourself first. I feel like, you know, that's the problem, is that the alchemy is being projected in such a way. You see it in all the readings that are coming out, and it is coming up in readings a lot. There are people out there. It's just part of pop culture at this point, with witch talk and, you know, all the stuff that's out there, like all the different movies, you know, everybody is an alchemist these days, okay? And you have to understand that a lot of these people have become alchemists because they've been programmed by the algorithm to become alchemists. So I want you to think about what's being thrown around out there. And there is a lot of manipulative magic being thrown around at this time, which are just projections ultimately at the end of the day. But when we do that, we're not really truly practicing alchemy. Alchemy is about refining the self. It's about looking at the blockages within you. It's not about that. It's not about, that's a distraction from the work. You know, so I feel like there's also an opportunity to really step into the true empowerment of being an alchemist, which is when you stop making it about them and instead start viewing that as like, that's a misfire. Where do I got something going on within me that I really need to transform? It's interesting how when you start to put the focus more on how you need to transform, it makes your whole life experience so much richer. And it also brings a lot more in-depth connections your way and more connectivity, not only with your life, but with others, because you start to harmonize with the people who really are on that same frequency. You know, you're not staying cast in this illusion about it being about manipulating others. It's not. Like, if you're manipulating others, you're manipulating yourself. Like, that's that's what the alchemist understands. That's why we always like polish the mirror, you know, polish the mirror. There's a lot to see there. All right. Where you're feeling at odds, this is the peace. Where you're feeling at odds, where you're feeling like you can't bring something together, or things aren't aligning, or things are very combative in your life. In some ways, you're divided within yourself. You're fighting with yourself in some way. You're divided within yourself. And so there's this need to alchemize those elements within. Anytime you're experiencing any kind of turbulence outside of yourself, it's like, and I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. It's much easier to make it about something outside of yourself. It gets frustrating when you start to really turn the mirror upon yourself and go, whoa, wait a minute, you know? So this is like a lot of people in the collective out of balance right now, needing to bring that into balance. Stop focusing so much on on who's throwing this around, or who cares? It doesn't even have to affect you. It only plugs into you anyway. If you let it have an effect on you by focusing on it, it doesn't matter. Let them do it. Let them do it until, you know, they're totally depleted and they see it hasn't worked because you're not even focusing on that. That's the only way that stuff works anyway. Stop blaming people. You know, stop blaming people for having poor boundaries. Lack of focus. You know what I'm saying? If you're focusing on that, you're giving it in it. If you don't care, if you're not fixated on that, because it doesn't have any effect. It doesn't. It doesn't have any effect. And this is something you'll understand as you start to, you know, just take your power back, take your focus back, take your energy back from anything that is riling you up or distracting you in a way that doesn't feel productive, you know? You'll learn a lot from it. Okay. What else, angels? How do you want to cap this off for us? Any other further words of wisdom? Woo. Again, Ten of Swords comes out again. We have a crossing influence that landed in my lap there, so we'll look at that. Okay. To the Four of Pentacles. All right. Yes. So the ways that we would rather stay in what's familiar, even though it sucks. It's true. People will settle for mediocrity because they're too scared to experience, you know, the vulnerability, quite frankly, of rushing toward what really lights them up. I mean, because that can really cut if you're heading towards something that, you know, you really strongly desire to not get it. Yeah, you know, it's a risk. There is risk of being hurt for sure. But is it better to stay in a place of mediocrity where you're just like, well, at least this is safe? I don't think so. There's some kind of revelation that will come forward, all right? And this revelation is what's going to protect you from future sadness. It's going to give you the activation that you'll need to actually find the inspiration to follow your dreams instead of just sort of like staying put because it's easier. It's easier, you know. That's one of the problems with where we're at right now in the age of the Kali Yuga is the laziness, the apathy. It's a big problem, that inertia. You know, well, you know, it's just easier to stay here. I mean, I'm not happy. This isn't fulfilling me. I don't feel engaged in it, but it's easier. It's easier. It's a lot to change my life at this stage. A lot of people do that too. As they grow older, they're just like, I'm too old to like hit reset, you know. And everybody has their choices about what they want to do with their lives, but it's up to you to sort of sit there and ask yourself, if you're that dissatisfied, why aren't you taking steps to change it? You know, maybe that's why some outside forces are being used as an excuse as well. It's just not really wanting to acknowledge that. Like, I just don't even feel I have the energy to do it, you know? I don't feel I have the energy to do it. So maybe start there. How can you start to generate some energy in your life? And then the more energy you have, the more that you're going to be able to rise to different challenges that maybe you're not able to rise to right now. Your BS might shift. You might let go of some BS and adopt a new belief system as you start to get your energy back. You know? Yeah. It's going to deliver you from prosecution and persecution, you know, being made to feel guilty and also feeling like you're being punished in some way. As soon as you realize that you're the one who keeps, you know, indulging in the pain, you know, indulging in what's feeling tedious, indulging in what feels like this isn't getting me anywhere. Sometimes you just have to start taking steps, no matter how small, to move towards what would move you out of that space. And I think a lot of people struggle when they're at that point where they've been stuck in that cycle for so long because they're just so tired, they're so drained. And so energy is a great place to begin. Just begin with energy and questioning your BS. I think it's a good place to start, right? And then what do we got here? The Magician. All right. I mean, that's what's crossing. This is the opportunity on offer. Are you going to be the alchemist? You have the ability to transform your life. You do. You can change it all right now. You can. It just requires that you acknowledge that you are the creator of your life's experience. You get to choose where you focus, and you get to choose the actions you take. You get to choose what you're in agreement with, what you're not in agreement with. It says spiritual wisdom and magic helps one gain wisdom and discover hidden secrets. Yeah, the hidden secrets are, then you'll finally realize it doesn't have to be as hard as you're making it out to be. It really doesn't. Once you start to realize this, things flow. Once you start to take back your power and you realize the ways that you're getting in your own way and shirking your own responsibility by continually blaming others or outside experiences for where things are at, the sooner that you'll start to see things move forward. It's wild, okay? But it does require kind of looking at some unsavory truths and also a need to shift things, which is not always comfortable for humans, okay? But it's worth it. It's worth it. All right, let's do a cut of the deck here. Final words from the angels on this. Knight of Swords. Intellectual richness protects fertility of women. Yes. Makes children respectful toward their parents. And when I think of that piece, that the children, I think about the ways the young parts of ourselves can act out at times. And if you let them, you know, those young parts of our psychology can kind of run the show and run everything, you know, amok. But there's that piece of self-parenting as well, you know. Sometimes you have to remind the parts inside of you that are still like, you know, very young or very vulnerable or in need of guidance or in need of reassurance, okay? Or in need of cheerleading, whatever it may be, that, you know, you got it, you know, you got it. And you got to kind of like, you know, remind yourself that may have been how it was at one point in your life, but it's not like that anymore. And you get to, you know, choose how you move forward in your life and what you choose to believe about your experiences. You get to choose now if you buy into, you know, what you heard growing up, you know, from the people who you looked up to, whether that's your parents or, you know, any elder that you had in your life that was very influential on you, or who your idols were at that time in your life, who you looked up to. You know, you get to really decide at this point if that's valid for you anymore. You get to chart your own course. You know, some of you may be doing a lot to shift just certain perspectives you took on from your family, from your upbringing. And a lot of that does tend to drive the subconscious narrative, which has a huge, you know, effect on what we create in our lives. But there's something you're going to discover here. And when you discover this, moving forward, you're going to cut through a lot of illusion. And you're going to start to feel that things are moving forward in your life in a more productive way. And this is where all the growth will come from. This is how you'll birth a new beginning, right? Is by questioning your beliefs that have been holding you back. And on the other side of that, oh, I love it. Just like we tied up the last reality tunnel, we got Archangel Michael coming through with the chariot. And see, then you move forward. So you are going to move forward with a swiftness. The more that you can dive into this week, this particular reality tunnel, ooh, I like that on the other side, and face that devil. You know, really look at the ways you deceive yourself. Look at the ways you act out of your lower nature. Also, look at the ways you need to have a scapegoat. The ways you need to make somebody the devil in your situation. How that's actually what's blocking you from moving forward. You can move forward at any time you want. You can change the story anytime you want. It's just about your beliefs and which window in the grid you choose to look through, okay? So you're going to discover ways that you are seduced, you know, by your lower nature. The way the shadow can be very seductive. And why is the shadow so seductive? Because the shadow is a cop-out. It is. It's a cop-out, you know. It doesn't require any of the bravery to really face what needs to be transformed and to own who you are in a very authentic way and move through life that way. You know, these things can be our downfall. The things that we feel that we need to like nurture in secret or hide out of shame. It's like, why do you need to be ashamed of it? Have you taken on shame you don't need to own? You know, all of these things coming forward. But there is this piece here about really looking at the ways you nurture what's already gone. And you continue to live, you kind of continue to live as a crypt keeper in a way. It says here, communicates with the dead. And I'm really taking that as continuing to like talk with old parts of yourself and convince yourself who you are now to stay tethered to these things that really aren't you anymore. You know, this is self-delusion and the way that we hold ourselves back from having that unity that we seek with the Two of Cups, you know, that interconnectedness of all things. And right after that is justice, the balance. Okay, it's beautiful, beautiful energy here. Yes, but here comes Michael, okay? Perseverance, success, and conflict, and overcoming adversity. All right? This is what you're going to learn as you challenge your BS. And I love this. In fact, I think that's even a better refinement of the challenge of looking through this reality tunnel of it's all BS. What if you took, just for this week, experiment with this. I want you to think of the person that you have the greatest disagreement with in your life at this time. That person that you've made out to be, you know, your nemesis, or it's all their fault, right? And just for this week, imagine, just role play it, try it on for size, that they are actually your greatest ally. And then ask for life to show up in such a way through synchronicity to prove to you all the ways that that's true. And just see what you discover from that. I think it'll be quite illuminating. Till next week.